It was past midnight when Mark noticed his boss, Ms. Reynolds, swaying unsteadily near the office parking lot. The company party had clearly taken its toll, and most of his co-workers had vanished. Without hesitation, Mark, a single dad used to putting others first, approached her. "I've got you," he said gently, wrapping an arm around her. Guiding her carefully to his car, he thought of his little girl at home, asleep in bed, and prayed this small act of kindness wouldn't spiral into chaos. The drive was quiet except for her soft apologies and slurred thank yous. At her apartment door, she suddenly grabbed his hand, eyes brimming with tears. "Why are you helping me, when you have so much of your own life to manage?" The question hit Mark harder than any workload or sleepless night ever could. It made him realize that selflessness didn't always come with acknowledgement, and sometimes, simple acts of humanity could ripple farther than one could imagine. The next morning, Ms. Reynolds called, clear-headed and apologetic. But instead of scolding or embarrassment, her tone carried warmth. "I can't stop thinking about what you did last night. Not many people would." Her words didn't just acknowledge his kindness, they reminded him that goodness matters even when unseen. Mark returned home, his daughter's laughter greeting him at the door. The world hadn't changed overnight, but he had. And sometimes, the smallest acts of compassion create the biggest awakenings. The next morning, Mark thought about last night's events as he prepared breakfast for his daughter. Her tiny hands reached for pancakes, but he could barely focus. Ms. Reynolds' words kept replaying in his mind. Not many people would. He didn't know why, but he felt compelled to check in on her. A simple text. "Hope you're feeling better. Everything okay?" Hours later, her reply popped up. "I wanted to apologize properly. Can we meet?" Hesitation gripped him. This was his boss, after all, but something in her tone suggested vulnerability, not authority. At the small cafe she suggested, Ms. Reynolds looked different, soft, reflective, stripped of the corporate armor she usually wore. "I've spent so much time focused on work," she said. "I forget that people like you exist. People who help, not for recognition, but because it's right." Mark smiled, realizing that last night wasn't just about getting her home safely. It was about a moment of human connection that neither of them expected. Then she said something that stopped him cold. "I've been struggling with more than just work stress. I feel lost sometimes." In that moment, Mark understood the true weight of kindness. His small act had created a safe space for someone usually untouchable by empathy. And the irony struck him. He, a single dad juggling life's demands, had just reminded his boss that humanity still matters. As he left the cafe, the sunlight warming his face, he felt a quiet pride. Helping others doesn't always change their lives immediately, but sometimes it plants a seed. And for both of them, that seed was already beginning to grow. Mark couldn't shake the thought of Ms. Reynolds' words from the cafe. Her vulnerability lingered, a stark contrast to the rigid, untouchable boss he knew at work. That evening, after putting his daughter to bed, he sat at the kitchen table scrolling through messages, half work, half the small ripple of kindness he'd created. The next day at the office, something was different. Ms. Reynolds approached him quietly, holding a small envelope. "I wanted to give you this," she said, sliding it across the desk. Inside was a handwritten note. "Thank you for reminding me that humanity matters. You inspired me to make some changes." Mark blinked. It was simple yet profound. She had never written notes like this before. Her world was usually dominated by spreadsheets, emails, and deadlines. And yet here she was, acknowledging him in a way that felt more human than any bonus or promotion could. Later, he noticed subtle changes around the office. Colleagues were kinder to one another, deadlines approached with cooperation rather than pressure, and even Ms. Reynolds seemed lighter, more approachable. The act of bringing her home, small, almost instinctive, had started a ripple effect far beyond what Mark could have imagined. That night, Mark tucked his daughter into bed, her sleepy smile reminding him why he did what he did. He realized kindness isn't always about grand gestures. Sometimes, it's about noticing someone who's struggling, offering help without expectation, and simply being human. As he gazed out the window, he thought about how one night had quietly shifted his world, and his bosses. One act of compassion had reminded everyone that empathy, even in small doses, can change lives in ways we never see coming. It was another hectic morning, but Mark woke with a quiet sense of anticipation. His daughter chattered about school, oblivious to the storm of adult responsibilities swirling around him. Yet something felt different, lighter somehow. At work, Ms. Reynolds called him into her office. His heart raced. Was this a reprimand? A weird thank you? He wasn't sure. But when he entered, she was smiling, genuine, unguarded. "Mark," she began, "I've been thinking about last night, and how you treated me. Not like a boss, not like a subordinate, but like a human being who needed help. It made me realize how disconnected I've been from people around me. And I want to change that." He blinked, overwhelmed by the sincerity in her eyes. "I thank you," he managed, unsure how to respond. She continued, her voice steady but soft. "I've started a program at the company to support employees who are struggling, mentally, emotionally, personally. Your act of kindness inspired me to do this." Mark felt a lump in his throat. He hadn't sought recognition. He hadn't expected change. And yet, here it was, a small gesture transforming an entire workplace culture. That evening he returned home, his daughter running to hug him. He watched her small face, smiling, innocent, and realized that every act of kindness he extended, no matter how tiny, could ripple through lives, unseen but powerful. Mark understood now that humanity doesn't need a stage. It needs moments, quiet, selfless, sincere moments like the one he had shared. That night, he went to bed with a peaceful heart, knowing that sometimes the simplest acts have the power to rewrite someone's world, and even your own.